Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Gallop Out episode 4. Today, I get to be joined by professional handicapper, NYRA representative. That is Mr. Jonathon Kinchen. JK, how's it going? Good morning.
Ryan, what's going on? How are you, man? You're enjoying the left coast out there?
Loving the left coast. A little early, but, loving the left coast. Day starts earlier out here. Had the first, game of the football season last night on Thursday night with the Chiefs versus Ravens. I love primetime games out on the West Coast because they're over by like 8:30. Out on the East Coast, they're going at like midnight.
Dude, I'm a Central Time Zone born and raised, and the football games start at 7:30. The primetime games, and then I've started spending a lot more time in New York, and like that 8:30 start time is for the birds. I can't stand it. I hate the time zone for sports.
Absolutely, yeah. No, the everything else, it just kind of makes sense, I guess. You kind of get rolling around noon. Out here, it's like 10 a.m. You better be up, drinking beers, getting your day going because we have football all day. But excited to talk some horse racing with you. Just to kind of start off, how was the season at Saratoga?
It was great, man. I mean, it's before I started doing TV there. It was always kind of a dream to be able to spend an entire summer at a place like Del Mar or Saratoga, to be able to just kind of post up for those 8 weeks, or I guess it's 9 weeks, 9 weeks, Saratoga and Del Mar. And so to be able to do it now, it's enjoyable. It's changed a little bit, right? Because I'm working every day. But one of the cool things is I've gotten to they used to use me a lot on the later show for the bigger races. And I think the way that we've changed our desk to be a 4-person desk, I got to work a little bit more early, which means for the late pick 5, I can sprint over there and be a race tracker for like the late pick 5 or late pick 6. So that's been good. But yeah, it was a fun meet, a lot of fun. It's always good. A lot of great races.
Absolutely, yeah. Love seeing you guys on Talking Horses and everything. The NYRA crew really does it right. Obviously, Andy Serling included in that. Love listening to that guy talk horses. He's always a treat. I guess first kind of question I got for you: how'd you kind of get involved in horse racing, and how did this all kind of start for you?
Yeah, so my dad, who passed in 2020, he was, just like a kind of gambler guy, but not like a sophisticated gambler, and like not even like a, not a blackjack guy, not a poker guy, not a sports gambling guy, but he just liked to kind of mindlessly pull a slot machine or, play our random address or random numbers or look up at the screen and pick a 7-2 shot with a couple of 20-1 shots and put them in a super box or whatever. And so when they opened Lone Star Park, I grew up in Dallas-Fort Worth. When they opened Lone Star Park, my dad, that was kind of that's what he liked to do. He would go on Thursdays, and Sundays were the days he liked to go the most. And he would go out there, and it was night racing on Thursdays, and then Sundays was like afternoon. And I used to just get so annoyed with him, like being bad at that. I'd see people with computers and the form, and he's just randomly picking stuff. And I was just like, I was a kind of competitive video game player, competitive guy. And so when I would look around, I see all these people, I'm like, Dad, come on, what are you doing? So finally, I just started like taking it upon myself to kind of prove to him that there is a better way to do it. And so I started kind of almost out of spite, like looking into like reading things and trying to like go to websites. And, I remember like one of the first things I did was like print out the form. And then I like would highlight the top. If you were in the top 3 of jockeys or trainers, I would highlight in green. If you were 4, 5, and 6, I would highlight in yellow. And then I would give like a point system to those, like, 3 points for the best rider. So I look at it now and it's like, if IRAD was on for Chad, that, they'd get 6 points. And I would like pick the horses like that. That was like my first thing I ever came up with or whatever. Obviously the prices were always probably pretty short. And I just kind of like fell in love with the puzzle. And then fast forward, there was probably like 3 or 4 main events that happened in my life that really got me fully hooked. First of all, when I went to college at Texas, it's kind of when sports gambling started, you started to kind of find those random websites. You could, Pinnacle Sports or whatever. Mm-hmm. Me and my friends would put $50 in and bet $5 16 parlays and stuff on college football. And then the poker boom happened. And then when horse racing came around, because we were all very interested in gambling, I had a little bit of knowledge because I knew that what I did with my dad. I knew a little bit, not enough, but a little bit. And one year in 2005, I bet 5 across the board on Giacomo. So Giacomo wins. I buy all the keg beer for everybody. And then that night I got home and I ordered 3 books on Amazon: Buyer on Speed, Steve Davidowitz, Betting in the 21st Century, and then like one of those DRF Betting with the Best books. I started reading those. And then, so that fast forwards to 2009, I went to my first Derby, and then we had so much fun that, you know, we went right back to the Belmont, and Champagne Doro won that day and paid 40-1. And I hit the pick 4 for $84,000. I was a high school football coach and a teacher. I was making like 60 grand a year, and I hit the pick 4 for 40 grand on a $192 ticket. That obvious. So then I started playing a lot more because I had a lot of more money I could kind of learn with. I took some lumps. And then 2014, excuse me, right around that time, Twin Spires had kind of, they had that lawsuit with Texas. And then, so all the ADWs got shut down in Texas. So if I wanted to get down, I had to drive from Austin an hour to Retama Park in San Antonio to bet a pick 4. Then I'd go home and watch it. And then Sunday, if I won, I'd go back and cash. And I started playing contests because like that was inconvenient. First contest I ever played in, I won a BCBC seat. I went to the BCBC in 2014. I played. I met Peter Thomas Fornatel. I started playing contests. I made it to the NHC. I got 2 entries in the final table. The next year I won the tour. I started a podcast network, and now I'm on TV. That's how it happened.
Incredible. Yeah, what a run that pick 4 to Champagne Doro. That's awesome. And then that just kind of skyrocketed everything and pushed everything to where it is now. And then thank you. That was kind of my next segue, was you into the kind of tournament play of things. And obviously you answered that by letting us know that that's kind of how everything kind of fell into place.
Honestly, like so Pete had a book called The Winning Contest Player that it's still really cool. And I got that for Christmas, I think maybe in 2013. And that's why I started playing in 2014 as an option. But also I started watching that show, Horse Players. And there was a lot of really cool characters in there that I liked, that I thought were interesting and cool, like Matt Bernier, Michael Baychok, Pete Rotundo, Team Rotundo. And then there was a couple that I thought were obnoxious, right? Like Christian Helmers, and I still think are obnoxious, like Christian Helmers and Kevin Cox. And I thought to myself, like, oh, I'd love to beat these guys. Like, they're just annoying. I'd like to beat them. So I was like, let me try to play. Let me see if I can compete with these guys. I don't know. Maybe I suck and I can't compete with them. So that's what kind of thrust me into playing contests. And then I just started playing, and I just loved it, man. It was a little bit more of a focused situation. And then I had so much success early that, it was even more fun for me, right? It's like I didn't have to like take lumps. So I just started playing a lot. And the tour, it's interesting when it came to the tour, is like, for people that don't know, so I started playing in 14. And I got the BCBC seat, and then I qualified for the NHC. So that January in 2015 would have been my first NHC, right? 15. Yes. Would have been my first NHC. And it's funny. I qualified and got 1 entry. It's not funny. It's actually sad. I qualified and got 1 entry. And then, I got I got like another third. So I missed it by 1, but one of the people that qualified actually passed away. And so it moved to me. So my second entry in my first NHC was actually because someone unfortunately had passed. So when I got to the NHC, I had those 2 entries. And that's the year that I got both of them in the top 10, and no one had ever done that. And so I got a lot of attention because of that, and to be fair, if I'm being 100% honest, and I'm appreciative of this, I'm not, but the NHC, the NTRA, the NHC, and the DRF, I think they looked at me as a young, not white, not 75, cool shirts, tattoos, marketing opportunity of like, oh, we can show that this younger person's playing and it looks fun. And so I started, I realized it's like, what, I should try to play in these contests a lot more. I got like a $2,500 like partner marketing agreement deal with DRF for the entire year, like $2,500 in a free formulator account or whatever. And I thought that was really cool. And And it just kind of, and then I started realizing, like, when I started doing well in the contest, like, you know what, I should try to win the tour, because if I win the tour, now I'm a champion. I'm a champion. Maybe next year they'll give me $5,000 for the year to do this thing. And so once I started chasing the tour, it was 100% on my mind that I was doing it I used to tell myself I was doing it so that I can get some supplemental income as in something that I love doing, and I can just be involved in the game. I never knew it was going to turn into like my career. And then when I won the tour, that parlayed into to the podcast network. And then I'm sure you're going to ask me about the TV. I'll just kind of give it to you as how it is. So I used to go to Saratoga, for weekends and hang out with Pete and stay in his back house or whatever. And one day I got a DM from somebody I didn't know. And it said, "Hey, can you come meet Tony Alivato?" And I didn't know who that was. I had to Google who's Tony Alivato, and I saw like, president of NYRA Bets and the TV guy. So I go to Tony's office, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing TV? I've seen some of your stuff, podcasts or whatever. Have you ever thought about doing TV?" And I was like, "No, but I'm sure, whatever." He's like, "All right, well, can you come? Are you going to be here next weekend?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be here next weekend." He's like, "All right, yeah, well, why don't we just get you on for the Whitney show early? We'll put you on for 15 minutes, just see how it goes." Sure. So I go home to Texas. I fly back to New York. I do the 15 minutes on the show with Greg Wolf and Paula Duca. We talk. It's the Diversify Whitney. And then Tony goes, "How was it?" I said, "Oh, it was good." He goes, "You did good. You want to try maybe again in a couple weeks for the Alabama? Are you going to be here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here." And I went home back to Texas. I came back. I did it. Later that summer, at the end of the summer, he flew to Austin and he said, "Hey, we're adding a bunch more shows. Do you want to be on Saratoga Live every day next summer?" And I was like, "Please, sure." And then that's how it worked out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love how things kind of work in the industry. Like one thing gets going, and then the ball just starts rolling and doesn't ever really stop. So that's cool. Yeah, thank you. You absolutely nailed the next question. Was going to be how you got into NYRA and everything like that. Just to touch on kind of the handicapping side of things, because I do think that's a really cool aspect of the game. Unlike blackjack, you can count cards or whatever, and poker has, certain things. But horse racing specifically has that puzzle that you have to solve every individual race, and it's all unique, and no two races are the same, even if, they're similar conditions. So I don't know, for you, like, we don't have to get too much in depth on it, but like, what's handicapping angles that you kind of prioritize when analyzing?
Well, I think that the one thing, if someone, let's say you brought who I think Pete probably knows me best as a handicapper, maybe Nick Tamaro, maybe even Andy, since we've worked together so long. I think that they would all say that the one thing that I'm pretty good at is being able to take in a bunch of information and then allowing it all to live into making a decision. And a lot of people get, if they get too much information, they can get confused. Like, I want to know if a trainer likes his horse or not. Doesn't mean it's going to move me up. I just want to know. And even if I don't trust that they're a good tip trainer or have good information, I want to hear words come out of their mouth or text, and then I will take that and I'll decipher it. I'm not going to just say, "Hey, do you like your horse?" He says, "I love the horse." And then I'm like, "Okay, he loves the horse." Boom. So I think the thing that I believe is important is I do believe that every horse player should have two speed figures that they trust, so that you can play off of each other. What this one, if Time Form and Buyer both have it fast, it's probably fast. If one has it fast, one has it slow, you have some work to do to try to figure out why that is. I love being able to dig into charts and see if a horse ran a 72 and I want to know if the 72 is real. The best way to know if it's real is to look at what the three horses that have run out of that race ran. So let's say there's three horses, second, third, and fourth, that ran 65, 64, and 63 figures in that race I'm trying to validate the 72. If those three horses all improve their figures 6 to 10 points, then I can assume the 72 is real. And in fact, it could be faster. I think that's a huge edge on trusting figures. I think that trip handicapping is a slippery slope. I think that it's dangerous because I think that, I think that sometimes what can happen is, there's an old axiom. There's no trips in slow races, because visually it might look like a horse has had trouble or was wide, but maybe it was a slow race, or maybe the race fell apart. So breaking slow actually played into the hands of that horse. So, I think, but you have to trip handicap. You can't not trip handicap. You have to know if horses were wide, if they were stuck in behind. You want to see those types of things. I think that my style is more of trying to gather a little bit of everything, and then take a deep breath, and then try to make some decisions. I want to see pace figures. I want to see workout reports, less for the grades and more for the words that are used in the description. I want to know if a 2-year-old first-time starter for Bob Baffert outworked the one that ran off the screen last week. I don't really care if it's a solid B or a B plus, but I want to know who they were working with. And I think that the one trick that I will say that I like to share with people that I am proud of. I don't know if someone told me this. Maybe they did. Maybe someone told me. I don't remember who it was, though. I'm sure someone told me. I will use Timeform US, and I will get the pace projector, and I will handicap front to back in terms of speed. A lot of times you think about it, most people open up the past performances and they look at the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. They go in order like that. I think it tells a much better story to go, they project the 4 to be on the lead, the 12 to be sitting second, and the 6 to be third. I like to handicap 4, 12, 6, 9, 5, 3, 10, 11, 1. You know what I mean? Like in order like that. And I think it helps you visualize the race a little bit better, because what'll happen is you'll be like, oh, you'll get the 4, you'll be like, oh, this horse is terrible. Oh, the 12. Oh my God, this horse is awful. Oh, the 6, this horse is really good. So then you can start to tell yourself, oh, the 6 is going to sit a comfortable trip right off of these 2 bad speeds, and vice versa. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my style, I think, is to just kind of mix it all up, and to always learn and always try a new tool, try something new, even if it just, you'll grab something out of it. Like, a Stats race lens, I played around in there for a while, eventually got away from it, but I learned a lot when I was playing around in there. So keep learning too. That's another thing about this handicapping game.
Definitely. Yeah. It's a game where you learn the more that you're in it. Just experience, just repetition. You just kind of learn more. It's funny, you mentioned like race lens and stat lens and pace projector, Timeform, all those cool tools that we have at our disposal now. I talk with Tom Quigley at Del Mar almost every day, and he constantly reminds me, like, oh, it didn't used to be like that. Like, I used to have a tape, and I'd mark down what races at what time on this recording, and I'd have to go fast forward and take. So just having all those tools at our disposal is really cool now, because it gives us such a depth of knowledge, and we have basically any angle, any race replay, anything that we want to find, we have the ability to go find. Interesting that you also kind of handicap from a pace perspective starting instead of, in chronological order, because I don't do it in the same way you do, but I go through every race and I find out who the pace, who like the projected pace is, and I'll handicap it that way, and then kind of go backwards as well. And then I'll kind of refer to pace projector after, just to kind of see if I was on the right track. And then I'll just kind of go from there. And if I'm not, then I'll kind of see maybe where I went wrong or where I had something. And then that's kind of how I'll kind of start, just because I do agree. If you go 1 through 12, you kind of get out of order almost, just because you're jumping around. But yeah, if you go, pace makes the race, as they say. So going off of that is definitely something I kind of noticed. And once I kind of switched to that, maybe a year and a half or so ago, I noticed like, oh, I can see a race a lot clearer once you kind of project the pace in your mind and see everything like that. And then obviously it's kind of like handicapping is a super complex with how many levels there are to everything. What do you think is kind of like a common mistake, or the most common mistake that a lot of novice handicappers can make?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest mistake is I know people that will handicap a race, 20 minutes a race, right? Sometimes longer. Watch every replay for the horses, watch the last 3 for all, look this, check, cart that, pedigree, all these things. And I have learned over time that it's so much less about handicapping and picking horses, and it's so much more about wagering. how you're going to bet it, how you're going to construct tickets. I always tell people, if you have an opinion and you're making one bet on that opinion, you're wrong. I think that that ticket construction and being efficient. And, if you're playing the pick five, I think you should take it. I've challenged people to take it beyond A, B, and C. I think that you can do, I've done in the past. It's harder now just because with the work schedule and stuff like that when I'm at Saratoga, but like I've even done it where I will do like a double A. So basically look at a pick five sequence. I'll do a normal A, B run, right? A's and B's. And then I will open up another window. And in the first leg, I will pick my favorite A. It doesn't have to be a 6-5 shot. It could be an 8-1 shot or whatever. And I'll do another A, B run single with a single A in that first leg. And then I'll do the same thing in the second leg, a single A in that second leg, really pressing my opinion of the horse that I like the most. And I think that that's obviously that takes some time, right? That can take 45 minutes to construct, 25 minutes to type it in, 30 minutes to type it in. But I would challenge people to spend less time handicapping and more time wagering, because usually first thought, best thought, usually you can, if you look long enough and you're in this game long enough, you can find a way for every horse in the past performances to win. And I think sometimes we spend too much time handicapping and not enough time with bet construction. You know what I mean? And I think that would be the biggest mistake I think people make, is they think it's all about picking horses. That's a question I get the most when I'm walking on the track. Who do you like? And it actually is very annoying because people say it, they yell it at you as in like a command, like, hey, who do you like? Give me a winner. Well, sir, I'm trying to find a winner myself. It's so much less about that. It's more about having an opinion in a race and how do you capitalize financially off of that opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. I got into horse racing in 2019, so about 5-ish years ago. And that was one of the things that I did wrong, when I started, because I love playing pick fives. I love playing those horizontal sequences just because I love parlays in sports betting. That's basically the same thing in horse racing. So I'd show, my friend that brought me into racing, I would go to Del Mar with him. And when I would show up and show him my ticket, he'd be like, dude, you're using too many horses. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, you want to get coverage? He goes, yeah, but this game's about you got to find a horse that you like. You got to press that opinion or single that horse, or, find a price in there. Favorites since the beginning of time in horse racing, 33%, because you're betting against other people. They're only right a third of the time. You got to find the 2/3 where they're wrong. You got to find that, or, sometimes it is just a single that is right. Sometimes it's that Baffert firster that just outworked Muth or whatever. And you just got to find that opinion. You got to press it, and you just got to be right. So once he kind of showed me that, and then, just kind of through time seeing that, I had this opinion at 8-1, but I used, my B and my C choice, which was a 2-1 and a 9-5 or something like that. And why did I use them if my strongest opinion was this 8-1 horse? That kind of just taught me through experience of yeah, it is about ticket structure and how you bet those opinions versus how you come to those opinions, for sure.
So I also have a thing that, especially it's great for Del Mar, where you're there every day, and at Saratoga. And I started to do this thing a couple of years ago. And look, we all love the action. We love being involved. We're fans of the game and all of that stuff. But one of the things I've tried to do is make pick fives and pick sixes qualify for me. And one of the ways that I do that is I say that in a pick five, 3 of the legs have to qualify. And in the pick six, 3 of the legs have to qualify. And the way that I do that is I'll ask, and here's how you qualify. Is it a single? Ice cold single. Can I get away with only using 2 horses? And I can use as many horses as I want if I can toss the favorite. So if I can take the morning line favorite and not use the horse at all, then I'll allow myself to play the pick five. So if I look at it, I got a single in the first race. I got a spread here. I need 7. I need all or whatever. I need 7 horses here. I can't. I can toss the favorite in the third leg. Fourth leg, I need to spread. Fifth leg, I can get away with just using 2 horses. Then I will say that sequence qualifies. If it doesn't qualify, then that's my way of telling myself that I really probably shouldn't be playing this because I don't have a strong opinion. I don't have a single. I can't just get away with 2 horses, and I can't toss a favorite. So why the hell am I even playing? Like, where's my edge here? And it's kept me out of some pools that I just didn't need to be in.
That's interesting. Yeah, because every sequence doesn't need to be played. If you don't have like a strong opinion, there's always going to be in the next pick 5, especially on those big NYRA cards. You guys have like 5 or 6 of those pick 5s a day. So I love it because it gives me a chance to, hold off on a sequence and like wait for, one that I want. So thanks for kind of diving into that. Kind of sidetracking from the handicapping perspective and just the pure enjoyment of the race. Obviously you mentioned Champagne Doro, but is there another horse that kind of stands out as a favorite in your career as a horse player and horse watcher?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I mean, obviously I have a few tattoos. So I have Zenyatta tattooed on my arm. I have Rachel on my arm. I have Barbaro on my upper arm. Most people don't see it. It's like up here. And then I have Palace Malice, who is the only Triple Crown race that my father and I saw live together. We went to that Belmont when he won because he was slow. He wasn't like my favorite horse, but of course that. Yeah, Champagne Doro was one that was pretty special. But it's Rachel did something to me. She was pretty remarkable. Obviously, seeing Pharaoh win the Triple Crown was great. And then some more like obscure horses. Sydney's Candy, I was a huge fan of. We actually bought an apartment complex when I was doing real estate, and we renamed it, and we named it the Sydney after Sydney's Candy here in Austin. And all the doors, the apartment numbers were like the saddlecloth shirt. So like
Sweet.
319 was blue, red, and like teal or whatever the 9 colors, or like light blue. I love Rushing Fall. I actually some breaking news here. I think I'm gonna get a hand tattoo, and I think I'm gonna get Rushing Fall here. I'm trying to think who else I really liked a lot. Arrogate was obviously sensational. Those 4 races that he won in a row were outstanding. And I'm trying to think if there's like a more random. I love Twirling Candy. I thought he was cool. Yeah, I mean those. Divisadero. I had a huge thing for Divisadero. I think I probably won the NHC Tour because of him. A little bit of him, a little bit of Tepin. I hit a fun betting story. One of the greatest days I ever had at the track. We walked out of there with like 150,000, and it was at Churchill Downs on American Pharoah's Triple Crown Day or Derby Day. And we were in the car going to Churchill Downs, and it's like, it's hectic. On Derby and Oaks Day, I don't go for the first. It's just too long of a day. When the stakes start, I go. So we're going in, and it's, we're running a little bit late, and I had like handicapped the late pick 5, but I didn't fully look early because I didn't know what time we were going to get there. And we're in the car, and I look, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to play a pick 3 into Divisadero because he's running and he's my favorite horse, whatever. Right now, he's gonna be, he's 10-1 morning line. I mean, whatever. So I'm in the car with Nick Tamaro, and I go, Nick, who do you like on the Pat Day Mile? Because I didn't really look at it. And he goes, Competitive Edge. I said, okay, cool. So I get there. We park on the wrong side. We're cutting through the infield. I'm dodging people. I'm trying to, it's 3 minutes of post. I'm trying to get to the other side where I can bet. I go up to a window, and if you've never been to the Derby, or if you have been to the Derby, all the people that work are like rookies. They're like there for the day, taking tickets on the first floor. You get a little higher, you get more professional people that know. So I get to the window, they're in the gate. The camera switches to like literally where they're looking at the pan shot of the gate. So it's about to pop. It's not behind anymore. And I go, can I do a $300 pick 3? It was Competitive Edge, Dame Dorothy, and Divisadero. And she goes, are you straight? I said, hit it. And she hit it. I looked up and they popped.
Nice.
And it paid $42,000.
Sweet. That is
that was an outstanding day. So obviously Divisadero, huge fan. Dame Dorothy, huge fan that day, and then Competitive Edge was involved as well.
Nice. Yeah. I'm excited to stay in this for an extended period of time. So that way, when I say any favorite horses and stuff, it's looking back the same way you did. Right now, it goes back to like 2020 with like, Swiss Skydiver and Tis the Law are two of my favorites. Obviously, getting to watch Flightline run was really special. Only being in the game for X amount of time, getting to go see him romp in the Classic by about a mile. I think the other horses are still trying to finish that race, but so seeing stuff like that was very cool. And then kind of looking ahead, speaking of horses we're excited, or horses that get us excited, do you have a horse you're excited to see run back in the Breeders' Cup in any of those races?
Yeah, look, it sounds like Ferocious threw a shoe. I thought he was impressive on debut, a little disappointing in the hopeful. Cinza Parole, the horse that won, I think it was on the Friday of Travers. She won for Chad, the Don Alberto horse. It was a gun runner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was sensational. Like, gave me Ways and Means feel. So I'm looking forward to seeing her run in the Breeders' Cup. I'm looking forward to seeing Ways and Means run, who I think could be tough in the filly and mare sprint. I think that, let's see who else. I think I'm hopeful that Chad's going to run domestic product in the sprint and not the dirt mile. I think that cutting back to 6 furlongs, a little elite power-ish, I think he could be tough and a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this Classic, right? I mean, if Fierceness and Arthur's Ride and Dornick and City of Troy sounds like he's probably going to come, and that could be cool. Excited to see the filly run again, Torpedo Anna. I'm assuming she's going to stick with the girls now, but feels like she's going to win the rest of her races, including the distaff. Yeah, I mean, it's Breeders' Cup time. It starts to get fun and interesting, and so I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it gets exciting this time of year as we kind of see everybody get their final preps in. Del Mar has, the debutante and the juvenile this weekend. We have the juvenile fillies turf where a lot of those 2-year-olds are kind of making their, penultimate start leading up to the Breeders' Cup. So yeah, it's certainly a deep division in some senses. And I think with the loss of Arthur's Ride, what was that? Why am I blanking on that one? Jockey Club Gold Cup. I think with that really opened up the Classic, because I think if he romped in there like he did in the Whitney, we're looking at like a pretty heavy favorite, especially with how Del Mar tends to play, with it really, really favoring speed going in dirt routes. So I think now that division looks wide open. I think, the 3-year-old Fierceness is probably going to be the favorite, training up from the Travers, which is going to be interesting. So I think you're going to get a pretty good betting race, and I'm hoping for a pretty big field in there. Seems like we might get about 10 maybe, which would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big race. I think that's definitely possible, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Fierceness handles it. But it's been something that's worked, right? American Pharaoh trained up from the summer, Arrogate trained up from the summer. There's a Flightline trained up from the summer, and then also last year White Abario trained up from the summer, and so I feel pretty confident that Todd Pletcher will work out some sort of a method for that to work out for Fierceness.
Absolutely. I do think, before we kind of wrap it up, I do think Fierceness, I do want to touch on that horse because he's really interesting to me. He looked as like a bounce and then would, rebound type of horse. But then coming back with 2 really strong efforts to win the Jim Dandy and then come back again to win the Travers. Do you think that's just I don't know if if you're a believer necessarily in the like every other type of effort for a horse, but seeing that he went back to back there, do you think that's just maturity and he's kind of grown up and knows how to, finish off a race now? Or do you think that was maybe just, I don't know, happenstance or something?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of things, kind of like I talked about with the handicapping. I think I just take all of it in, and I think they've just kind of figured him out. I think that, these animals can't talk. We're always guessing what they're going to do, what they want to do, how they want to do it, and when they want to do it. And I think that they probably brought him back. They thought he was so talented. They probably brought him back a little bit short when he ran in the Fountain of Youth and kind of didn't run well. And I think that then, he came back in the Florida Derby and he ran huge. And then in the Derby, he didn't run that great. And then he comes back, takes time after that, and runs well in the Jim Dandy and then on into the Travers. I think that Todd's figured him out a little bit from a training standpoint. But I also think that Johnny said it in a post-race interview, and then when we filmed Cart Talk that closing week, he told me, and it didn't make the show, but he told me off, on camera, but it didn't make the show. He said that he would send him and then grab him. And he didn't like that. And since then they've fixed that. They don't do that anymore. They just let him do what he wants to do out there. And he's figured it out. So I think that goes a long way.
Yeah. Thanks for the insight there. That's definitely helpful. Yeah. The 3-year-old crop is looking pretty competitive. Obviously we didn't really touch on, Sierra Leone in there, who just looked like a freight train. And then hopefully, maybe one of these days he'll get his race to kind of finish that off, because he really closes hard.
I think that he's a horse that if he gets the right pace set up at 1.25 miles, he can win. And so I wouldn't ignore him in the Classic at what's likely to be at this point a pretty big price.
Absolutely. So I got one more for you about a horse, and that horse is Next. The connections seem pretty hell-bent on just demolishing the marathon division for as long as possible. How do you think that horse would do entered in at 1.25 miles?
I mean, I'm curious. I mean, I don't think he's very fascinated and he's very good at that division. I think it would be a harder test for him. I'd love to see him try to do it. I'd hate for him to try to do it in the Classic. I'd like to see him do it before that, but they're running out of opportunities. I mean, I think last weekend was probably their best opportunity to do it. So I'm getting the impression the same way you are. They're probably going to end up leaving him around around those longer distances.
Yeah, I agree. It's a shame we'll probably never get to see him go 1.25 miles. I was definitely hoping for a test in the Gold Cup just to try and see, because he has one of those explosive turns of foot on dirt, which is pretty rare to see. But that last 1/4 mile that he kind of finishes up in is ridiculous to watch a horse explode like that after running for as far as he had.
Yeah.
No, all right.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sorry, I was thinking like I wouldn't. Is there another 1.25 mile race for him? Not yet. No, I agree with you. I just think that I think that was his thing, and I think if they were going to do it, they would have done it last week.
Absolutely. And I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's going to go romp and that's picking up a check, that's getting money. So, good for the connections. Just, something us as fans, we always kind of wish to see. Well, JK, thanks so much for joining me and just talking about how you kind of got into everything, how you kind of see the awesome game of horse racing. I really appreciate you joining me. That was a really fun conversation.
No problem, man. Good luck.
Thank you. And hope to see you soon. Whether, I don't know if you'll be out at the Breeders' Cup, or if I ever make it out to Saratoga, definitely have to see you.
Yeah, no, I'll be at the Breeders' Cup. I'll see you out there.
Cool. Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Take care.